Welcome. For those of you who may be joining me for the very first time, my name is Daryl Sweeney, and I am a professional coach who spends a ton of my time helping entrepreneurs and professionals like you build the business and the life that they really want. I often get asked, so what does that mean? How do you help? What do you talk about with your clients? I talk about all kinds of things. We talk about marketing, we talk about business growth, we talk about scaling, we talk about how you show up in your business. We talk about leadership. We work through mental blocks. We work through challenges and goals that you've been stuck on. Every client's different. Every client has their own story. And a lot of the work I do centers around learning about that client, learning about that story, becoming an outside voice, which helps them push the business and their life to a level that they haven't quite been able to achieve on their own. So I am somebody who believes that collaboration can take you further. And this coaching business is a great example of that. I see it over and over again. So, with that being said, I'm so excited about today's topic. Topics come to me in all different ways. I keep notes. I'll see something, I'll hear something, something will inspire something in me, and I'll jot it down as something to expand on in a topic, and it'll become a show just like this. Well, today's topic came to me in a pretty awesome way. So I spent the weekend down at the lake with the family. We rented a boat. As you probably know, if you've watched this before, I have a 5 and a 3-year-old, both boys, and they spent an entire Sunday jumping off the boat into the lake, swimming, trying to drown me. Everything's always a wrestling match with these guys, but it was just an incredible Sunday. And if you are somebody who goes to the lake, who spends time out on a lake, and you believe anything like I do, then you know that no good lake trip is complete without having some ice cold beer. So it's almost like a requirement. And for some reason, certain brands of beer taste better on the lake than others. And so they're just become lake beer. So we definitely had our coolers full of beer. We were just having a good time as my wife and I, the 2 boys, and a couple of friends. And we just spent all day on the lake. As I'm sitting there floating on the lake, I'm finishing off one of those frosty beverages I just mentioned. So I'm finishing that off, and I look down and I noticed writing on the side of the can. It's just something I'd never noticed before. And I started to read it. And before I even finished reading it, I knew that this was going to develop into a topic. So I want to read to you what I saw on that can that day. And the beer itself was a Lagunitas. It was their daytime IPA. And on the side it said, partly sunny or partly cloudy, half empty or halfway to another. Sometimes there's still work to be done. Sometimes there's still work to avoid. There's freedom in burning down the house of fixed expectations, and it confers an undeniable lightness to being. I read it and I was like, there's something there, so much so that I took a photo of it. And if you got to this event online, you probably saw that photo. But I took a photo of it, and let's see, gosh, that was Sunday. Today's Wednesday. And I couldn't get the phrase out of my mind. Burning down the house of fixed expectations. So that is our topic today. We're going to talk about burning down the house of fixed expectations. Now, when I read this, it just felt like something that there's probably a backstory to. So I wanted to do some research. I wanted to dig in. I started playing around on the internet. And sure enough, I started finding some other stuff about Lagunitas, the brand. Admittedly, it was a brewery that I loved their beer, but I really didn't know the story behind. I didn't know where it was brewed. I really didn't know anything about it. And in digging into this, I came across something else that just kind of expanded on this idea that I just read you. And I want to share that with you as well. So bear with me. I know today is a lot of reading, but it's stuff that hit me pretty powerfully, and I'm hoping it does the same for you. So this is an excerpt from the book by Tony McGee, who's the founder of Lagunitas Brewery. And I think I'm not sure what came first, what was written on the beer can or what I'm about to read you, but either way, it just really hit me in a powerful way. So it says, we stood there for a while watching as the house burned, as the roof collapsed, as the rear wall with the whole back deck still connected surged forward under the weight of the flames, momentarily smothering the flare below it, only to explode brightly with a rush of cinders and a wall of fresh heat thrust in our direction. What artifacts had just burst into the night air? A wedding dress? An old box of photographs? It was all gone or going now. The blaze was making something new at the same time. something more primal and less evolved. By morning, the weighty things of the past will be reduced to vapor, heat, light, and cinders, receptive to the slightest wishful breeze. There is a freedom in burning down the house of fixed realities, and it confers an undeniable lightness to being. We didn't invent these truths, they invented us. If the images that hit your mind as you were listening to that did anything like they hit mine, then there's just something about this idea of a fire coming through, right? It's so devastating. It's so total. It's so absolute. And it's one of those things that happens to a lot of people that forces us to start over, that forces us to think about what went well, what didn't go well, think about things that on how to restart, how to rebuild, right? It's just so absolute. And when I think about the idea of fixed expectations, I think about how often we don't have something as devastating as a fire to come in and force that newness, that beauty upon us in restarting and the opportunities behind it, right? So we talk a lot about fixed expectations, and I think they can be really dangerous to what we bring into our businesses and into our lives, right? When we bring fixed expectations to work, what are we risking? What are we losing? What are we never going to see the opportunity to because we're so fixed on how we believe things are or how we believe we are, right? Another word for this could be fixed mindset, right? We hear a lot about fixed and growth mindsets. And in preparing for this, I went and I found something from Carol Dweck. So she was a professor at the university or at Stanford University. And this is what she said. She said, in a fixed mindset, students believe their basic abilities, their intelligence, their talents are just fixed traits. Now, as you're listening, I want you to almost replace students with entrepreneur or business owner or professional or manager, right? Whatever your case may be. They have a certain amount, and that's that. And then their goal becomes to look smart all the time and never look dumb. In a growth mindset, students understand that their talents and abilities can be developed through effort, good teaching, and persistence. They don't necessarily think everyone's the same or anyone can be Einstein, but they believe everyone can get smarter if they work at it. So what do you think about you? What thoughts, what mindset are you bringing in to work every single day that may be keeping something just out of reach that you really want? Right? What do you think about the business? What do you think about the reality of the business in a normal time or as we sit here in the middle of COVID? Right? What do you take on and wear as absolute truth that is in reality just your truth because that's the way we're choosing to see it? Right? And then what's the danger in that? So as for me, as I thought about this stuff, I thought, where in my life have I brought these fixed mindsets, these fixed realities, and wore them as truth, and what have they held me back from? The first answer that popped into my mind was anything financial, right? As a student, I always believed I wasn't very good at math. I would crush English. I would crush writing. I would crush a lot of different topics. But when it came to math, I just always felt like it was my Achilles heel. And I wore that as my truth. So naturally, when I began starting and launching businesses, anything financial, I just saw something I couldn't do, something that wasn't for me. So some of my first hires were accountants, right? I brought CFOs on early in the business. And looking back, there were a lot of mistakes that were made because I wasn't paying enough attention to the finances because I saw it as something that wasn't me. I saw me as somebody, as a leader who was good at a lot of things, but because I wasn't good at finance, I saw that as a fixed reality and there was nothing I could do about it. So I didn't dig into the numbers. I didn't spend a lot of time figuring out what my balance sheets were telling me. Instead, I just trusted the people I hired, and that caused me a lot of problems in my career. Now, looking back, I see the opportunities that would have been made available for me had I not seen it as something fixed, see it as something cool. I'm stronger in some other things, but this is a foundational part of the business. It's something I absolutely can do. It's something I can get better at, right? I'm not going to be solving crazy equations like Good Will Hunting, but it's definitely something that I can know well enough to make important decisions about my business, right? I think that would have changed a lot of things for me. So that's one example of how having that fixed mindset, of having that, just the damage that can come from us seeing ourselves a certain way. I think it also happens in business, right? What are the ways in which you see your business that is so fixed you can't even consider other opportunities, other realities, other partnerships, right? And where is that holding you back? So when I think about burning down the house of fixed expectations and what that looks like in a business, I think if we're successfully able to do that, if we're able to move past this fixed mindset, then that's going to lead to new ideas. That's going to lead to new markets, new revenue, new efficiencies, new marketing opportunities, right? New partnerships, things that are going to drive your business forward and ultimately get you to the place you want to be, to make the business of your vision a reality, right? And maybe we get there in ways we've never considered, but we never will consider them if we never are able to move past what is and what we believe always will be. So that's kind of the challenge today, right? How do we move past that? So I want to go back to the Lagunitas story. And I had a lot of fun researching this. I had a lot of fun kind of learning their story. And I told you that book was by Tony McGee. He was the founder of the brewery. And as I learned more about him, I just love the way he looked at his business and his brewery, right? So one of the things he said is, you don't make beer, you create circumstances where beer can occur. And I think that's so powerful, right? So often we don't really understand what our role as leaders or entrepreneurs or managers are, right? We think it's our job to make the thing or sell the thing or do the thing. When the reality is we want to create opportunities for good timing. We want to create opportunities for the right partnership. We want to create opportunities for things to happen in our business that maybe we don't exactly plan, but because we set things up the way we did, good things can occur, right? Here's something else he said. He said, when you don't know what you're doing, anything is possible. I love this because he talks so openly about early in his story how they really didn't know what they're doing. They just kept trying to make beer, trying to figure it out. And they kind of made it up as they went. You know, what he said was, we had to start up in our own way with our own solutions. Sometimes they were poor solutions with technical problems, but they yielded this new flavor option we wouldn't have otherwise seen. I think this is a beautiful example of what happens when you don't go into a situation with a fixed expectation, right? He could have gone into it saying, this is the flavor we're going for, this is the beer we're going for, this is the style we're going for, and anything else is a failure. But instead, he said, hey, we didn't hit the mark, but some interesting things happen there that we can either learn from or can develop into other products or can do other things with. So throughout his journey, every misstep, every mistake, he didn't see as fatal, right? He didn't see it as a condemnation of what he was doing. He said, there's something here to learn. There's something here that allows us to grow, to scale, to do something, be something that we may not have been thinking about only moments ago. He goes on to say, it's amazing. 4 ingredients, and yet after 5,000 years of brewing, there is still something new to do. That is a beautiful example of having a growth mindset, right? So my challenge to you today is simply this. Ask yourself, where is your mindset fixed, right? Where are there absolutes about yourself and the leader that you are, or about the business that is bringing flexibility, bringing options, bringing creativity out of the business, draining it out of the business, and not letting you step into who you can really be? Better yet, ask someone else, right? I know for a fact, because I've been there, and that so often we're too close to our businesses, right? So sometimes we can't see things over the horizon. It's hard to see things differently, right? That's where an outside voice or an outside eye really can be valuable. And that's one of the things I do with my clients and for my clients, right? To come in, hear about where they are, understand what they're trying to solve, figure out where they're trying to go and what their goals look like, and helping them get there. Working with a coach who isn't in it day to day can really help you see some things that you just wouldn't otherwise see. So it's one of my favorite things about being a coach and working with the variety of business owners and professionals that I do, right? A lot of it is whether it's culture, whether it's products, whether it's marketing, whatever it may be, getting that different perspective will open up some new doors. So together, we're really able to burn down those houses of fixed expectation. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you learned something, or I said something or shared something that allowed you to look at things differently. I do this every Wednesday. So I'm really thrilled that you decided to join me. If this is the first one you've seen, feel free to head to my website, darrellsweeney.com, and click on the library tab, and you'll see all the old recordings. So I record all these and archive them there, so you can go back and see other topics and other things we've discussed. But more than anything, just know how appreciative I am that you're here, and I look forward to walking this journey with you. Have a great time.